Well, I'm gonna make another video this cap and ball black powder topic because P226 Nut made a video. It was a really good video covering the history part and then kind of some other stuff. With that history part, I was always under the understanding that the Texas Rangers had managed to get those Colt Pattersons from the Texas Navy. But I could be wrong. And the story that I heard was that the Texas Rangers were fighting Comanches. The Comanches usually waited for them to their fire off their rifles, and after that first volley, maybe a second because they would have like a single shot pistol or whatever, then they'd close in for the kill. So the Texas Rangers fire off their rifles, and when the Comanches close in for the kill, apparently Walker and his men had them fully loaded. Like they had the hammer down on a live cap, which I guess played well for them because each man came up with a handful of Colt and five shots in each hand. And apparently, the story that I've heard, that I've read, is that that was kind of what solidified the Texas Rangers as Colt revolver men. And the crazy part is, now I'm going just off of what I've read and what I've watched and whatever, but I don't have any of it in front of me. Apparently, the Patterson did not sell very well, and Colt went out of business. So there was some hostility with Mexico and Texas, as happened numerous times throughout the years in that period. Walker, I think, originally was like maybe a lieutenant or something. Now he's a colonel. Sends off to Colt. Says, "Hey, I want these guns, but I want them better." Apparently, the Patterson did not. It had a loading lever, but not like we would think. It was like a separate piece that went through through the cylinder pin or something. I don't know, but they put an integral loading lever, made it bigger, more powerful. But apparently, once again, this is kind of going off memory here. I believe they're blowing them up because of the fact that, like you say, they were loading conical bullets in backwards, and the guns were made out of wrought iron, so they didn't have a lot of give like a modern gun would have stress proofed steel. Um, but yeah, so that and and then apparently during another time with hostilities with Mexico, there was something where there was like some expedition into Mexico, and there was rangers. They would send like one ranger with like, I don't know, like a squad or a battalion or whatever of U.S. soldiers as almost like a guide or a scout or something. And the the military loved the Walker so much, but seen some of the drawbacks, so they got Colt to scale it back, and that's kind of how the Dragoon came about. At least that's what I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. Um, the other the other thing is you were mentioning grip frames, and you could do this on your 51 Navy, I think, because it's very similar in a lot of ways to the 70 to the 73 single action. Um, and maybe you're interested, maybe you're not. You're probably P226 nut. You're kind of like me. You're a nerd in the sense that you would know these things. Um, a grip angle that I've always thought was really cool, and I've never actually handled one because it's not a super common thing, but I would be very tempted. And this is where I get bad with this because I want to make it an arts and crafts project, right? But I'd be very tempted to do a Keith number 5 grip frame. I think that would be pretty slick. But I don't know. Maybe that's a stupid idea. And the part in my first video I didn't talk about with Southern Paladin and kind of mentioning hunting maybe a little bit is another thing that I've thought of. And I might do this down the road because this is pretty attainable. Lyman, who's probably as far as muzzleloaders go, um, as far as traditional muzzleloaders go, because there's inlines that are really well made and stuff like that. But as far as traditional muzzleloaders, I think Lyman is probably at the top of the heap. Um, and what I would maybe do is look at Lyman's makes a pistol called a Great Plains pistol, I think it is, in 50 caliber. It's a single shot cap lock, and I've always thought that that was a really cool pistol. And mentioning hunting, and you were talking small game and being concerned about tearing it up with a 44. Now, something that I've done, because I have a Thompson Hawken uh, in 50 caliber, and what I would do when I would hunt small game with it is I would do 30 grains of black powder uh, over a patch round ball, and that light charge did really well with that. Then when I would hunt, you know, deer, I would do usually like a 90 grain charge over a conical bullet a lot of times. Yeah, but anyway, I'll cut that off there. Everyone, take care.